gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Face in your face.
What the hell is going on down there?
Face in your face.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Hopefully, you can hear me because my Wi-Fi is acting up a little bit. But in any case, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with this channel or watching this channel for the first time, the reason why it's called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform, we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions, but not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. And I see here we have quite a bit of activity in the chat tonight. Thank you, DDS, for stopping by. And yes, this is going to be an interesting topic. And what's going to happen is I have a feeling that some people are going to get triggered. Hey, Gigi, thank you very much for stopping by. I also have a much smaller YouTube channel called Latina Diaspora when I talk about issues pertaining to Puerto Rico Latinos in the United States. The link to the channel is in the chat. I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And also the subscriber mode has been enabled, meaning if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment in the chat, you will have to subscribe to the channel. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who've already subscribed to the channel, whether you've been there from the very beginning or just recently joined. I really appreciate your love and support. I also want to send a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, as well as those who allow me to enter in your devices and those who watch from the clouds, even the haters. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you have not done so already, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and set the bell notifications to all. So therefore, whenever I do go produce content, you will have the opportunity to catch it live or catch it on the playback. And as you can see by the description in the thumbnail, tonight we're going to be talking about who are the incels. Okay. Now, this is a term that we've been hearing a lot lately. And the problem is people are using this term without even figuring out what does the term mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe what is an incel, and then we're going to talk further about it. But before we get into the main topic, we're going to have, excuse me, just give me a moment. We're going to have another episode of In My Words. So we are now in the month of June, which have many events coming up. First of all, we have the National Puerto Rican Day Parade, which will be held in New York this Sunday. So it will be an opportunity for us Puerto Ricans, whether it be those who are raised in the island or those who come in the part of the diaspora, to show our pride. Okay. Also, this is Gay Pride Month. A month where people talk about the achievements that the LGBTQ plus community sorry about that. Um, Thank you, Gigi. Um, Now, for Christians like myself, it gets to be it could be a touchy situation because what our beliefs when it comes to um, homosexuality. But one thing I do respect, I respect everybody has the right to live their lives as they see fit. I also believe in the fact that what adults do, as long as they're not hurting anybody, okay, that's their own business. However, just because we may disagree with issues when it comes, points when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community, it does not mean that we cannot learn and show, respect towards the community. And when everything is said and done, I think what the main thing is that they want to be able to live their way of living in peace. Now, I don't have a problem with anyone living one's life as they see fit, as long as they don't try to compel others to accept that belief. Okay, that's when it gets to be an issue. And I, as a Christian, do not impose my views on anybody. And on those occasions, when I do talk about Christian views and Christian topics, I always come across saying, I'm not trying to force anyone to accept what I believe. I'm just explaining the rationale behind that. Okay. And we can agree to disagree. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Gigi. So Gigi was gracious enough to put the link to my other channel in the chat. But I mean, look, the bottom line is we all need to be truthful to ourselves, and we all need to be honest with ourselves and try not to live for others. Okay. In my case, look, I'm only responsible to God and Jose Negron. I am not responsible to anybody else. Okay. And what I notice is people are trying to tell people how no or compel people. Good evening, the real awesome Collins. Thank you very much for stopping by, sir. The fact of the matter is, people should be able to live as they see fit, but don't impose their values on others. Okay, and that's one of the things that make this country great. Is that we have virtually every people from virtually every nation, and we have different types of philosophies, and we should be able to coexist and have mutual respect towards each other. Okay. One of the problem is that you have certain individuals, extremists, trying to impose their will and their philosophy and others. And that's never a good thing. And in fact, what you do is when you try to impose force values down people's throats, what you're doing is cheapening those values. Okay. Any true value does not need to be accompanied by force. People should be able to accept or reject whatever values that they do not feel comfortable with. So, with that being said, we're going to get into the main topic. Now, before I continue, let me just state for the record The link to join the panel has been pinned. Should anyone wishes to hit that link and opine regarding the topic in hand, they may do so. Let me make this perfectly clear. If I never seen you before, if I never heard from you before in any platform, whatever, I will insist that you come up in the backstage to make sure that no one flashes anything inappropriate, which would cause the people of YouTube to take down the stream. Now, let me give you my motivation for why I'm talking about the incels. This is a term that many people have been saying, particularly on social media, for quite a long time. Okay. And the problem is, like some people, they use a term, but they do not understand the meaning behind the term. So what we're going to do is, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to define what does the word incel means. It is a member of an offline community of young men who consider themselves unable to attract women sexually, typically associated views that are hostile towards women and men who are sexually active. That is the actual definition of an incel. Now, what's been happening is like if you have a man that decided to, you know what, I'm not going to engage in intercourse until I am married or until I'm in a serious monogamous relationship, automatically that dude is called an incel. Okay? No. If a man has a healthy respect towards women, if a man does not see women as an object of lust, if a man can value a woman for who she is, with all her thoughts and all her attributes and everything that make a woman unique and special, that does not make him an incel. That makes him a mature man. Unfortunately, what's been the problem is this, that people have taken the term incel, which means involuntarily celibate. Okay, it's not a situation that men are deciding on their own to be celibate, to abstain from sexual intercourse. It is because for whatever reason, whatever situation, they cannot attract a member of the opposite sex in order to engage in intercourse. That has been the problem. That is the problem. And I'm sure that this topic is going to trigger some people tonight. And I'm sure there's going to be some people that's going to put some comments on X or what have you, talking about, well, this old fart over here doesn't know anything of that nature, and it'll be deflection. Okay? No. First of all, I don't claim to be an expert. I'm just simply someone that happened to do a little bit of research. Now, one thing, and I wish these men, okay, I wish those who are calling other men incels, instead of using that as a negative term, just simply because we have a healthy respect towards women, I wish that these individuals would actually sit down and think, Well, why is it they're not able to attract a lady? Why is it, okay, they're not attracting a member of the opposite sex? Why is it they're not getting the results that they are seeking? Okay. And part of it has to do with the fact, let me just see it. Now, here's the interesting point that Creole Culture Channel stated. Many rich and successful men use celibacy as a way to have more focus on their goals. I guess like Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, and 50 Cent are all incels. Interesting point. Interesting point. Look, there's always going to be time to engage in that activity if you're so inclined. Okay. But you know what? There's more to life. We're gaining access to the box. Okay. There are goals that you want to achieve. There are dreams that you wish to follow. There are aspirations that you have. Okay. And in you need to have the discipline. You need to have the drive. You need to be able to remain focused on what you wish to accomplish. Now, in my case, I was fortunate because I'm the first member of my family to attend college and graduate. Okay. And that required a great deal of discipline. Okay. Particularly in college, because when you think about, the college years, those are the years where you are engaging in adult like activities. You are going out to parties. You're socializing with your friends. You're socializing with the opposite sex. Okay, and of course, some of them would choose to be sexually active. Okay. However, if you're going to be sexually active, you need to have discipline. You need to be careful because other than getting someone pregnant, you can come down with an STD. Okay. So it takes a great deal of discipline in order to devote 4 years of your life in order to get a piece of paper called the diploma. Okay, so let me just go over just a minute bit. Just bear with me for a moment. Okay, excuse me. But okay, just okay, just bear with me for okay. You know what? Let me just go. No, what I'm gonna do is share. Okay, I'm gonna read to you an article from Rutgers University, which shows that's how some incels can become violent extremists. Okay. This is basically the situation where people not that can that are unable to deal with rejection to the point that they become violent. Okay. Now, a new study from Rutgers University and Penn State Abington explores the radicalization process for incels, term meaning involuntarily celibates, and how the online community where members define themselves by their inability to attract women can lead to violence. Previous research on incels has largely been descriptive, just making the scientific community, legislators, and public aware that this group exists. Our research goes to step further to uncover a new way members are recruited and radicalized using incel-specific language, said Kurt Fowler, an assistant professor at Edmonton campus at Pennsylvania State University who began researching incels at Rutgers New York School of Criminal Justice. Along with two Rutgers University Newark graduate students, Robert Green and Albert Palomi, co-author a study titled The Black Pill Pipeline, which was recently published in the academic journal Sexualities. The researchers are calling for a closer tracking of incels by the FBI and legislation to combat the subculture of growing domestic terrorist threat. Previous research by Folstein has shed light on the subculture and jargon of incels, who in recent years have been linked to sexual assaults and mass murders, such as the May 2023 shooting at Allen, Texas that left 9 people dead, and the 2018 Toronto killings in which a self-identified incel murdered 11 pedestrians by running them over with a van. Incels share a worldwide view that seeks to position white men at the top of the hierarchy that subjugates women. They often express the belief that white men are the victims of minorities and feminists and claim that those that think otherwise have been duped. According to the Black Pill Pipeline, potential crimes can be prevented if law enforcement monitors them more vigorously. There should be more resources dedicated towards this. They are very vocal when they're going to do something. Each year, a variety of government agencies and watch groups, extremist virtual communities, is a clear present threat, yet we have passed little or no legislation to combat these groups. Fowler and Green and Palomi analyzing more than 2,700 pages of incel posts from 2019. Their study explored how community members progress from a sense of solidarity to hostile radicalization, where violence is encouraged and sometimes carried out. More than 80% of the post was about them talking about women and what they would do. A lot of them regarded as violence, said Green. Although many members of the community often transit incel community, which are in frequent shutdown, only to pop out elsewhere by the internet, don't harm anyone, others don't, purely through a series of awakenings leading to conclude that their rage and powerless can only be relieved by violence against women and normies, and they turn for average people who follow norms according to the study. Now, basically, I'm not going to read the whole study in its detail, but unfortunately, we have a situation when certain males do not know how to accept rejection. Okay. And as a result of this, it leads to different types of activities. Some of them will go on social media, and they'll talk their ish about women. Others will target certain female content creators for harassment, doxing. Others will, post false reports to the authorities, things of that nature. If you've been around these YouTube streets for any length of time, you see that women have to deal with men. Okay, correction, males who are unable to accept rejection. That is the sad part. That is the reality. Okay. Because for whatever reason, whatever situation, you have a group of males who are frustrated because they cannot attract someone of the opposite sex, and they love to create a false narrative about women. Okay, calling them lesbians, calling them too picky, calling them, what have everything but a child of God. That is the sad part. Now, what I'm going to do is, just give me a moment because my computer, okay, just give me a moment. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to share an article. Just give me a moment. Let me just, okay. So I came across this article regarding um, mental health as it pertaining to incels. Now, they are a subculture of disenfranchised men who hold an adversarial and hopeless view of the world. Unable to secure sexual connections, incels consider themselves to be genetically inferior and excluded from mating due to women's preferences for those atop the sexual hierarchy, who they often referred to as chads. Typically, incel frustration is expressed online in the form of misogynistic and anti-feminist rhetoric along criticisms of society for exclusion. Violent acts committed by small numbers of incels have created interest in this group from researchers, the media, and those involved in protecting public order. Much of the academic research has focused on the understanding of incel rhetoric, with fewer studies investigating incel experiences. Investigation of incel experiences is important as it could provide some explanation for the rhetoric and possibly inform intervention focused on reducing violence and misogyny. In the investigation, found the experience of unwanted celibacy and how low one's sense of mate value is related to misogyny. These findings thus suggest the possibility that interventions are designed to improve incel mate value of self-perceptions, enhance expectation, willingness to pursue future romantic interaction that may prove effective in reducing misogynistic behaviors. Early research into incel mental health investigators their polls in dedicated forums. Though forum polls provide a window to incel experiences, there are shortcomings associated with the methodology. Other reports may not accurately represent lived experiences, and assessment forum polls is unlikely to provide a comprehensive assessment of members' perspectives, since not all members are equally active on the forums. Let me just screen down. So now we're going to be talking about incels and mental health. As might expected, given the association between romantic isolation and perception of one main value of mental health, studies have indicated that poor mental health among incels. Assessments of incel forums polls imply membership in incel community might be associated with poor mental health. These terms of self-hatred and depression are pervasive among forum polls, often only surpassed by misogyny. Further indication of self-harm and self-deletion and deletion have been observed on incel forums. Interesting. Outside forum research and non-psychometric. Yes, I agree. They do require therapy, DDS. The Pullman have an estimates of 64 to 70% of incels experiencing symptoms of depression. Primary day studies using psychometrically sound measures are similarly indicated poor incel mental health. Found high levels of depression of incels were characterized as reportedly moderately severe or severe depression and anxiety, which 67.1% incels fall into moderate or severe anxiety categories among incels compared to non-incels. Similarly, found incels to report higher levels of anxiety compared to non-incels. This echoes findings that incels are more likely to receive an anxiety and depression diagnosis compared to non-incels. Thus, despite the limitation that we have outlined, there's a distinct indication of mental ill health among incels. Now, they did some grading regarding mental well-being or lack well-being regarding the incel, which resulted in the others. Incels will score higher than general population in depression. Incels will score higher than the general population in anxiety. Incels will score higher than the general population in stress. So in other words, many of these individuals who are actually us incels, they have many mental health issues. We conducted a power analysis using the PWR package for independent samples. Okay, I'm not going to go into that because that's a little. Along the biographical questions, gender, incel status, age, country of residence, and personality measures, participants completed the depression and anxiety stress scale. The DAS comprises 42 assessing depression, anxiety, and the best pair with 4-point response scale ranging from 1 that did not apply to me at all to 4 that applied to me very much or most of the time. The DAS is reported is a measure of depression. Okay, that's a small statistical data. So let's go to, excuse me. So this is a graph which shows the results of the findings. Excuse me. This. Excuse me. No. Oh boy. Okay. We believe that this brief study is among the first to examine the factor structure of the DASS and establish mentioned invariance between the incels and controls. The data supported by residual invariance implying the means that can be compressed between incels and controls. Okay, I'm not going to go into this. I'm just going to park it here. Okay, basically in statistical jargon, it illustrates that many many of these individuals that call themselves incels are dealing with serious mental health issues. Okay. Now, remember, I've said on multiple occasions, and I will continue to say this: hurt people, hurt people. That's the reality. Okay. Now, when it comes to a group of individuals who have issues of low self-esteem or no self-esteem, that okay, unfortunately, they are not equipped to deal with the mental health issues that they are experiencing. So, being that they're not equipped, what they're going to do is they're going to deflect, they're going to project, they're going to create an illusion that they actually are than better than better off than what they are. Okay. I have had um, individuals that have referred to me as an incel. Okay. The problem is, the problem is, you have individuals that use the term as an insult. Okay. And unfortunately, they don't understand the meaning of the term. They don't understand what it means. An incel is someone that's involuntarily celibate. Okay. In other words, they're not abstaining because they wish to abstain. They are, in their sense, being forced to abstain because they cannot find someone of the opposite sex that's willing to engage in sexual activity. That's what it is. Okay. Also, they will use that term to describe someone who is an incel. If they decide to abstain from sexual activity until marriage, okay, which, truthfully speaking, biblically, that is the correct way to proceed. Now, I do understand that not everyone believes in Christianity. Not everyone believes in biblical values. I understand that, but let's look at it in a non-religious way. Okay. If you're the type of person that you are self-assured in your masculinity, okay, you don't need to engage in sexual activity with multiple women just to prove that you are a man. Okay. And also, we're living in a day and age where there are people of both sexes are coming down with multiple sexual diseases. Not just AIDS, but other sexual diseases. Furthermore, if you engage in sexual activity with a member of the opposite sex without protection, you are exposing yourself to the possibility that the woman can become pregnant. You are risking the transmission of sexually transmitted diseases. And not only that, if you have an STD, you risk passing it on to your partner. Okay. And unfortunately, we're living at a day and age where there are people who know that they have an STD, but they're not being transparent in letting whoever is their partner know that they have a sexually transmitted disease. Okay. And to this day, there's still no cure for HIV. I mean, I know one content creator who is a Christian, okay, and he has decided that he's going to abstain from intercourse until he engages with the woman that he chose to be his wife. Okay. Now, of course, we're living in a day and age where people are hooking up, people are getting busy, people are engaging in sexual intercourse with multiple partners, and whatever consenting adults do, that's fine with them. Okay, but the thing is, be responsible. And I remember my mother, God rest her soul. This is what she used to say to my nephews, particularly my young nephews that was going out and spending time with the ladies. Uh, when you're with the ladies, make sure that you use your party hat, if you know what I mean. Okay. Of course, the number one way to avoid um, getting an STD and an unwanted pregnancy is abstaining from intercourse. But we know that many people won't do this. Okay. And part of the problem that these incels have is that they equate having intercourse as a sign that they are a man. Okay. There are other ways that you can determine that you are a man. I mean, basically, a man is anyone that's able to think for himself, be responsible for himself, conduct himself and his affairs in a responsible manner. Okay. That, in my definition, is what a man is. Okay. Unfortunately, we're living in a day and age where people talk about the sexual conquest and things of that nature. And another problem with the incels is that, you know, they they have this warped sense of what intimacy is. Okay. They think intimacy is a simply banging anyone that has a skirt. And that's not the case. Okay. True intimacy is when you are being intimate with someone that you are in a monogamous relationship. Okay. But we do know for a fact that not everyone is able to maintain a monogamous relationship. And what I will say to these individuals, if you in your heart of hearts know that you're not able to maintain a monogamous relationship, just be honest. Just be honest and just let whoever that you are going to engage with sexually know that. And then you leave it to the person to decide whether or not they wish to engage in sexual activity. Okay. Unfortunately, we're living in a day and age where not everyone is completely transparent. Okay. Uh, People are illustrating a false image. And speaking about false image, another problem with the incel is they have this image that if they don't sleep with the opposite sex, they are a failure. Okay. And then look, there are many different ways, more positive ways to decide, define what is success. Okay. Be able to conduct yourself in a responsible way. Be able to achieve your goals. Being able to overcome difficulties, trials, and tribulations, and things of that nature. Now, earlier tonight, I participated in a live with Miss Olid, where she was talking about a video regarding one individual that was critical of a woman because she, according to his estimation, she was overweight. I've seen the lady, and you know what? She looks pretty good. Okay, is she's a bit on the chunky side? Yeah, but she looks good. Okay, now she has indicated. Now I don't know whether it's true or not that she's able to engage in intercourse. That she found men that are willing to engage in intercourse. Now I don't know how to interpret that, and I'm not even going to try to interpret that. But basically, what this individual, and to be perfectly honest, the individual that's making the criticism, um, we have never seen what he looked like, and for all you know, he can be an obese person himself, and he's just being frustrated because he cannot attract a member of the opposite sex. Okay, and the rhetoric that the man was stating, it cried incel. It cried incel. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why it did. Because look, whenever there's a situation that the only way that you can feel good about yourself is by tearing down another person, that's incel that cries incel activities. That cries of low self-esteem. Now I see we have a guest, so let me just state for the record that the views of those who appear on the panel are not necessarily those of the host, and any attempt to copy and material without the consent of the host is whatever. By appearing on the call, you waive your rights to your image. Some of the views that people hold may be offensive to some viewers. If you do not like the content, you can block the channel. Now we're going to bring in our guest. Good evening, DDS.
Hey, how you doing, Jose? How you been?
Oh, fine, thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. You know what? I was listening to your outstanding commentary there on the incels. Like, I really liked how you were able to break down what the definition was, what real men actually do. And I would really applaud you. I applaud you so much for being, clear and concise. I think you did an outstanding job. I just would like to add just a few things, right? You know what I'm saying? From
Go
what
ahead.
I've seen, we've got some characters that get on social media, on YouTube, and what they do is they are very socially awkward. That is, these particular types of guys, right? They were, what I'm saying, very awkward in school, you know what I mean? Not really social. They were always the odd one out. They were, what I'm saying, very uncomfortable with, having, relationships with both men and women generally. Like, they're just really not that social. So what they have found is that with the internet, they're able to hide. See, on the internet, you can put out there what you want everybody to see. You know, you could pretend that, you know, you're such this great person and you've achieved so many things just simply by, you know, photoshopping pictures and you know, acting like you were there and you were never there, putting videos together pretending like that's you and that's really not you. That's a clip that you found somewhere else, and you're putting it out there like, you know, that, you know, that's you, and that you're living this great life and that you got it going on. That's what we're seeing with what a lot of these incels are doing, like 912 and his buddy Nate over there. You know what I'm saying? Playing pretend, you know, cosplaying. What cosplaying is basically pretending. Men, guys pretending to be, you know, stand up, authentic, you know, traditional type of men, and they're not. They will go as far as to pretend that they're married. They will go as far as to pretend as though they have a wife, have a family, and come up with a weird story, like this whole story that they want everybody to believe. But once they get called out on it, and see, this is where the rubber meets the road, is when people start to ask and start questioning. And then there are so many like discrepancies, and you can't answer questions and you can't show and prove. That's when the exposure happens. But these people, these incels, a lot of them tend to be, you know, staying at home with their, you know, their mother. If they're, you know, especially a lot of the guys, you know, they're unemployed. A lot of them are failures as men. So they get online and pretend to everybody else that they're Mr. Big Shot, that they just got it going on. And these incels, they like to hide. They've been hiding in Black manosphere spaces for years. And recently, Jose, I've been calling them out. Like I've just been saying, look, if you don't like women, if you have an issue with women, you don't belong here. This is not a space for people that are socially awkward and you have deep underlying issues. We are not therapists. Like, I am not your therapist. Just like we tell, you know what I mean, another demographic of people, we are not your therapist. Well, we are not your therapist either, in sales. This is not a place for you to vent, to put your frustrations out, because what's going on is that you're giving the collective of men in the Black manosphere a bad look. Look, perceptions tend to be more important than reality. So, you know, the way that things are perceived is very important. So the perception is that all of the guys in the Black manosphere are all the same, and that's not true. What we have is a lot of incels here who are pretending and cosplaying to be men, but they're really failures. And it's time to call them out. It's time to draw a red line in the sand between us and the problem. So that's what I wanted to add there. And look, you know, our best advice to you is to get therapy.
Okay.
Go get professional help if you have mother issues, deep psychological things that happen in your childhood. YouTube is not a therapy place. Like, this is not where you're going to get that type of treatment and help. You need to actually go to a doctor to find out what's going on and to heal, you know, from those childhood traumas, from, you know, deep things that happened back in your past. Like, this is not the place for that. This space, Jose, was originally made by married men who had issues and concerns, you know what I mean, you know, about their relationships and things of that nature, but they still loved women. Like, they still like women. They're still attracted to women. They just had some criticisms, you know, that they wanted to talk about, you know, but what's happened is the space has been hijacked by a younger group of guys, these quote unquote incels. who have decided that they're going to try to make this their home. They're going to try to speak for us. No, you don't speak for us. If you notice, a lot of these incels, a great way to spot it, Jose, is that you notice guys like 912, guys like Nate, they cannot have a productive conversation with women. Every time they have a conversation with a woman online, there's a big, huge argument, or what they're doing is they're talking down to them. See, that's a dead giveaway there, is that they cannot have a productive conversation with any woman. So that's another, thing that we've noticed here. Like, we watch, in our spaces, there are a lot of men. So we can identify what men are the incels and what men aren't. But Jose, I just wanted to kind of make that clear because, I've been here, brother, I've been here in this space for a very long time. And I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of people. I've seen, a lot of panel conversations. And a lot of the guys that are yelling and screaming at women, calling them names, being disrespectful, they have deep psychological issues that they really need to go get a professional therapist to, work on them with, to get, to help them to get out of that. But look, this YouTube space is not a space for that. Like I said, they're giving the collective of men that are in that space a bad look. They're the loudest ones on here, hollering and yelling, you know what I'm saying, going from chat to chat, being disrespectful to women and claiming that they're manosphere. No, you're not. You're not manosphere at all. We're talking about men. I'm talking about men who are actually on their game as far as their career-wise, men who have a purpose, a sense of duty, and men who are attracted to the opposite sex. That's what the space is for. It's not for, guys to give their advice if they're not into women. Like, who's going to listen to a man that's not attracted to women? What kind of information can you bestow upon other men or young men if you're not, actually looking to get married? You're not looking to actually have a productive relationship with a woman. Actually, what you're aiming to do is drive men away from women. And that's not what this space is about. It's not about driving men away from women. It's not supposed to be about that. So I just want to make that perfectly clear. But go ahead, Jose, what you think about all of that?
First of all, what we do here, if we're going to talk about a topic, we're going to define what the topic means. Okay? Because for quite a while, individuals had incorrectly used the term incel. Okay? To be used as an insult. So basically, if you are a man and you have a healthy respect towards women, you don't see women as such as a means to satisfy your lust, automatically that person is declared an incel. No. Incels are people are involuntarily celibate because they cannot get with a member of the opposite sex. Okay. I have been called an incel, okay, by incels. It is just a case of deflection because hurt people hurt people. And yes, these people are in need of therapy, okay, because something happened, maybe back in school or maybe happened in their childhood that they had never recovered. And as a result, you see a situation when certain men don't know how to approach a lady properly, and they get upset when they get rejected. I think the live that Miss Elite had earlier tonight was a perfect example of a dude that was acting like a pure incel.
Yes, I would totally agree. And I know you mentioned earlier, okay, so what I have seen out here is that anything other than disrespecting a black woman, at least here in on black YouTube, that's called simping, and that you're a simp. So as far as the incel term, and see, going back to the simping part, that's what I got a problem with. Like, they try to label you as a simp because you can have a decent conversation with a woman. You don't hate women, you know, and those conversations that you have with them are, tend to be very interesting and very productive. So what guys, a lot of incels like to do, they will attack you and say, you're a simp, bro. Why are you simping like that? No, this is common decency. If you're on the streets out here, if you're, going to the store, going to the mall, at work, you're going to talk to people with common decency and respect. That's not simping. So that's what I've seen out here. That's what they like to call guys who actually can have a productive conversation with a woman. They like to call them simps. Now, as far as the incel part, yeah, you're absolutely right. Is that the guy the guy AC? I don't know him. I've heard of him before, but when I heard the stream that Miss Elite played, and I heard him speaking, I was taken so aback by it. Like, he had nothing like informational, like that would help men at all. He didn't say anything that was like, uplifting to men, not one iota. Like, he didn't have any type of like charts up, no data, no statistics. He was just running his mouth. All he done was just run his mouth up there and said things that really didn't make any sense. Like, I'm embarrassed for him. Like, I was embarrassed listening to it. I was like, okay, so this guy has a following, really? The way that he's talking? So that was really unfortunate to hear from a guy that supposedly has somewhat of a following. Look, Jose, this thing on social media, and I've said this before, is that everything that's right is wrong, and everything that's wrong is right. Some type of way on social media, they have found a way to pervert the good and uplift the bad, right? Mm-hmm. And they incentivize the bad. So all of the people that are, angry, bitter, upset, yelling, arguing, bickering, and fighting, they're the ones getting all the views. They're the ones getting all the cash apps. They're the ones out here being looked at as leaders. Like, where do they do that at in real life, where the people who are, at the bottom rung as far as their behavior, their disrespect, things of that? Since when have we started to uplift those types of people instead of people who are actually teachers, lawyers, police officers, firefighters? No, in real life, those jobs are looked up to. Those people are respected. But for some reason online, all of the wrong people is getting all of the attention, and it's being classified as the leader. And then you got people saying, well, look at what the men are saying. Well, look, these particular men are not the representative of all men. They're not the representative of the collective of men. Actually, the collective of men, Jose, I would argue, are out here living their best lives. They're out here providing for their family. Like, they're not online making this type of content. And if they are online, guess what they're doing? They're learning how to repair their car. They're learning how to garden. They're learning how to actually fix something. That's what they're doing. They're not on here having these types of like conversations, and arguing about who's the prize and who who isn't the prize. All of these ridiculous types of topics. They're not doing that. You see what I mean? So to try to say that the representation of men is a person like Minister Jap, right? I don't think you know who that is, or no, this guy AC, or this guy AC that Miss Elite was showcasing today. To say that is a, very disingenuous. Like it's just not accurate. And I think people get really caught up in this and they start assuming that men are this way or women are that way. But I tell you what, to really find out, step outside of your door. And that's something that incels, tend not to do because they're antisocial. They don't go out enough. They don't socialize. They don't go to parties. They don't go to art galleries. They don't go to social functions. They're staying at home and they're in this circle. They stay in this circle. They don't leave this circle. And they just, harass, dox, nag people all day long. And they try to make themselves as though, that they're the top dog out here. No, not at all.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was last week or maybe the previous week on Miss Leach's on live, there was this person that described himself as a mulatto. I think, I don't know, whatever his name is, whatever he calls himself, talking about how Black people are the most ill-educated people as a collective. And that's going on and on and on. And basically, the original topic was on Black love. So eventually, I had enough of the rhetoric. And I have to say, first of all, I started off stating the following. When it comes to resiliency, the Black community is very strong in being resilient because they have to undergo 250 years of chattel slavery. They have to go through decades of segregation. They have to go through centuries of having their identity and their culture being stripped from them. And the fact that they have to create a new culture and identity for themselves and think of the achievement that Black people have made in multiple fields and for them to call them as the least intelligent and then being disrespectful to everyone on the panel, including myself. And I have to remind him that chronologically speaking, I'm old enough to be his father.
Yeah, people just have a total lack of respect for their elders. Look, I grew up in a time where you respected your elders, right? Like I was taught to do that. And the guy that you are referring to, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was listening to it and I was just so taken aback. He's a terrible example of a Black man. If he's a Black man, like that's a terrible example of a Black man. But like I said, they tend to have the loudest voices. They go around from panel to panel spewing nonsense, and they're feeding into the narrative that, certain women want to pigeonhole Black men into. They're doing exactly what, is actually instigating a lot of the back and forth. They're the problem. Not everybody should really be on here, able to just talk like that because it's really reckless. So yeah, the topic was about Black love, and he got up there, what I'm saying, speaking Black hate. That's what he done. Like, like it was Black hate, putting your own people down like that. You know what I mean? Like for no good reason, with no data, no statistics, nothing to even give one iota or credence to what he was saying. He was just speaking fast and running his mouth. Look, they have talked about people that speak really fast, right? You have to be careful about those people. They're like car salesmen. They're scammers. So every time that I listen to a person that speaks like that fast, the first thing that I think is he's trying to get over, on people. He's trying to pull the wool over people's eyes by his language, the way he speaks, the tenor, and the quickness of his speech, right? So like I heard what he was saying. And it was obvious to me that he's been on numerous panels, and he's got his little, fake, black people hating rhetoric down, you know what I'm saying, down to a science. And he saw a panel, and she let him up there, and he decided to just start with the foolishness. But this is the thing, is that at the end of the day, just like I said, men like that are feeding right into the narrative that certain women are trying to pigeonhole men into being, generally across the board. That guy was a terrible example, terrible excuse of a man. He was disrespectful to not only Miss Elite, he was disrespectful to everybody that was watching, and listening, and everybody that was on the panel, really, with his rhetoric. I mean, so yeah, Jose, right now on social media, there is a crisis. There is a crisis of good versus bad. You know what I mean? Like, we're seeing a lot of bad actors out here, people that have disingenuous, motives for being on here. And then those who actually are trying to do the right thing out here, So there's a battle here, and unfortunately, the bad people are being incentivized. See, the more that people watch them, watch the chaos, watch the dysfunction, watch the order, the worse it gets. Yeah, because it just validates them. So they continue doing it. Like if this person is getting views, they're going to continue to make that same content over and over and over again. So at some point, we have to fault the audience as well. Because if they didn't have an audience, then they probably wouldn't be on here too long spewing that rhetoric, because nobody's listening. But if they have people watching, people giving cash apps, folks giving super chats and things of that nature, that provides what? That provides an incentive for them to continue to spew that toxic rhetoric. None of which is actually, realistic in the real world. Nobody is out here talking about, when have you ever had a conversation with somebody, Jose, in real life, where somebody is saying, are black women the prize? Are black men the prize? Who's the prize? Nobody is talking like that. That's online BS. That's really what it is. And people do anything for clout. They do anything for clout.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Alex, how you doing, brother?
Yeah. Good evening, Alexander. Look, and let me tell you something. And another stream that Miss Lee had, she allowed one of her trolls to enter the panel, and it was going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. And it gotten so bad that I had to, I felt compelled to hop back on out of concern. And I said to her, look, this is your channel, this is your platform. You run it as you see fit. The problem is when you allow these trolls to hop on and basically engage in foolishness, you're basically giving them the okay to go ahead and do it. That's why on my panel, on my channel, I don't allow all that. I don't allow all that. Mr. tried in vain to invade this platform. The first time he was blocked, the second time he was banned, because I am not going to engage in that stupidity. I don't have a lot of rules here, but my rules are as following. Everyone is going to mutually respect each other. And even if we disagree, we're going to be agreeable when we disagree. If you cannot abide by these rules, you do not gain access to the panel. It is that simple.
That's simple. And that makes so much sense. You know what? I totally agree with you. By giving people the opportunity to speak, to actually come up and spew their garbage, you know, I believe that you know that plays into their hands, and it turns your channel, in my opinion, it turns it sort of into a clown show. So you can have a serious topic, a great conversation going on, right? Where people are actually engaging, you know, having a good back and forth. Everybody's happy, being respectful. And then to have a troll come in and ruin that, you know, it's really a sad thing to see. So I don't let that happen on my panels either. You know, I tend to let folks, you know, up and speak. But once I find out, right, that they're up there to you know, cut the food, cut the rug up there, I'm like, look, this is not going to be a clown show. I've got a topic. We need to stay on topic. What do you have to add to the topic? If it's not on topic, then you know, there's no reason for you to be here. See, people know who to try that foolishness on, but you know, some people, I guess, Jose, you know, they get on this app and they want to have the, you know, like they want to, you know, have content to make. Like I get it, like you know, it's content, but my thing is that what kind of content is it? Like if you're really serious about the topic, if you're really serious about, you know, a certain message that you want to give to the people, you wouldn't allow anybody to come up there and mess that up for you. You wouldn't let anybody just come up there and start cutting the food. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that actually discourages other people who actually do have something that they want to add to the conversation from doing so. Once they, you know, people are watching and they see that there's foolishness going on, the first thing is like, oh, this is a clown show. They playing now. This isn't a serious conversation. So like, I totally agree with you. I just wanted to add a little bit there to that. But like you said, people run their stuff however they want to run it. It's theirs. You know what I mean? Like it's their platform. So they can choose to engage in that. I just don't like engaging in it. And my thing is if you claim, right, that you don't want the foolishness, that you don't want the trolling, you know, then there are ways to go about ensuring that it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like it just is what it is. Now, look, you know, just like I said, Jose, like I've been on here for a long time and I've seen people run panels. I've seen this happen a lot on people's panels, right? Where people the conversations start to devolve. I've seen panels start bad, end good. I've seen panels start good and end bad and be totally ruined. And it's terrible to see, you know, but at the end of the day, it's the channel holder's responsibility to control their panel. Like it's your responsibility, you know, to control what's going on your channel. So if there's foolishness going on, if it turns into a clown show, that's on you. That's actually on you. You actually can't blame anybody else for that. That's almost like leaving your door wide open, you know, at night, just wide open, thinking that nobody's going to do anything. Like there are bad actors out here. You know what I mean? Like there are bad actors out here. So you have to protect your channel. It's all on you. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's the way the Google rules are set up, is that you are responsible for what happens on your channel. So folks can come and troll and stuff like that. And, you know, yeah, they did it. But look, you have control to let them up or not. They don't have to be up there speaking. especially if there's like a particular topic and the person gets up there talking about something completely different. Oh, just go ahead and drop them down and tell them, okay, listen, if you come back up here, I'm going to have to ban you. That's what I had to do to Marquise. I had to ban him. I had to ban him because, look, like I told him, I said, do not come back up here on no foolishness. Like I don't want to speak with you. He kept trying to come up, banned. Now I don't have that problem anymore. Mm-hmm. It's just that simple. It's it's really just that simple, Jose. So, I mean, like I get it. The guy that you were referring to that was coming up on her panel like that, I saw what was going on, and he was doing exactly what the other guy, the mulatto, supposedly the mulatto guy, whatever. He's doing the same thing that he done. He got up there and started feeding right into the narrative that certain women want to pigeonhole black men into. He did exactly what a lot of women is saying online, that these men are childish. They aren't really grown men. They are an embarrassment to themselves. Things of that nature. So that's what it showed me. But at some point, it's the channel holders, it's their responsibility for controlling the panel. So, okay, once you get that shown that this person is this way, if you continue to let them up, then, now that starts to become you. That starts to become you. You know what I mean? Yeah. There, so yeah, that's what I got to say on that.
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge Irby in the chat. Good evening, Irby. The topic is who are the incels? Okay. And, and look, I decided to have a discussion regarding this because people being misusing the term for a long time. And basically, they've been using it as an insult without fully understanding what does the term mean. Okay. And look, when everything is said and done, this is my cyber home. I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to make sure that anyone that decides to consume my content is, given high quality content. I have to make sure that the people that's going to hop on the panel or on the chat are going to be able to contribute something positive to the conversation. If they're going to come over here to bring out their beeps and argue about anyone that's on the panel or anyone that's on the chat, it's like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to depart, because when everything is said and done, I'm responsible for everything that goes on. And I mean, there was a time, something that happened. There was like a disagreement between Gigi and Femi, and I did not like the direction it was going. So it's like I had to okay, let's table it for now. Let's just say we're going to disagree and keep it going. So I had to change the topic, because if not, it just would have been going back and forth. And look, I'm not blaming anyone, okay, any party, but it's just that when everything is said and done, we got to move on.
Yeah, we got to move on. You know what I mean? My thing is that it's okay to have a disagreement, but we got to be respectful about it. Jose, that, you know what? That is one of the things that a lot of brothers in the manosphere talk about, right? Is that we tend to go in certain areas, have the data, have the statistics, have the information, you know what I'm saying, talk very monotone. And what we find is that the people that we're talking to, more often than not, they can't handle the information. And they feel as though that they're being talked down to or disrespected by people just, recalling facts, showing charts, showing data, but that's not our fault. Like, we're not out here, calling out, women their name, being disrespectful, yelling, screaming. All that we're doing is presenting a concise, structured argument. And what we've noticed is that people get offended by that. Like, that's really unfortunate. Somebody would actually get offended, right? By you actually, speaking, very respectfully, about a topic. They are expecting, they think every black person is supposed to be loud, obnoxious, rude, disrespectful, and speak a certain way. Listen, that's not true. We're not all the same. You have some black folks who were raised in middle class neighborhoods that grew up with a certain vernacular.
Mm-hmm.
Others who went to college and learned how to speak publicly. They have public, speaking courses that people can take. Some people even take them in high school. So there are some individuals out here that can present information in a way that, you may not be, accustomed to. But that doesn't mean that you have to feel offended by that. Like, that's not my fault. That's not any other Black Manosphere brothers' fault for, that they can actually get out here and present an argument correctly. But we've noticed this is that, Jose, I mentioned this, right? That I've been on numerous panels and I've seen this happen. Like, I've seen it happen. And it's really sad, because they want you to devolve. Like, I noticed this is that a lot of times certain women want to elicit a response out of men of anger and vitriol to try to devolve the conversation instead of actually having, a respectful, intelligent conversation. Like, I'm really taken aback by that. So, I found that that's not entertaining enough. See, people want to be entertained, Jose. They want the drama. They want the chaos. They want all of that. Now, because it gets views. Everybody wants to see it. Supposedly, that's what they want to see. But not all of us are like that. Like, I don't want to see all of that. I don't want to participate in all of that. When I'm doing a panel or a live stream and I've got a topic, either it's going to be like this, right? You're going to get, be respectful to me and to others in the chat and have a nice dialogue, or it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, do you expect somebody just to be yelled at and just sit there and listen to you berate them? No, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry. No. You know what I'm saying? People need to learn how to communicate. Jose, that's the thing. Learning how to communicate. A lot of folks in the community do not know how to actually communicate with each other. They really do not. Like, there's an art to that, but there's a simple way also. I speak, then you speak. Then I speak, and then you speak. It's not something where we're talking over each other, where a person can't finish. You're interjecting. No, I have my points, and I'm able to get those points across, and then there's a response. And then if we can't agree, let's move on to a different topic. Like, that's just simple. That should be easy enough. I mean, what say you, brother?
I agree. I just want to acknowledge that Randall is in the chat. Good evening. Thank you for stopping by.
Hello.
But the reality is we're living in the age where people have lost the ability to speak without raising their voice and getting emotional. That is the reality. And I see it many times on multiple platforms. And again, I keep saying it, Everyone can run their channels as they see fit. Okay, I would never tell another content creator how to police their channel. Okay, nevertheless, I'm going to take every measure necessary to make sure that everything here, there's going to be some structure. People are going to be able to speak without having to outshout each other. And if they cannot do that, they're shown the door.
And they claim though, see, this is the funny thing is that of course, yeah, we can't run somebody else's channel, but they complain about it and say, well, you know what? I want to have these kinds of conversations. I want to have them, but then, they only have themselves to blame for it though, because you actually
Yeah.
can have those conversations, but you have to have that structure there. Set some rules and have some structure and not have it be a free for all. See, a lot of times folks are looking for a panel where there's a free for all. That way they can just get up, run their mouth, and leave, right? A lot of people feel comfortable when there are no rules, no structure, no confines, no bounds, right? But that's not how you operate in real life, though. In real life, when you're speaking with your boss or a coworker, there's a give and take. I speak, she speaks. I speak, he speaks. I say something, he says something. She says something, and then I say something. Like it's not where we're cursing each other out and just being like totally like disrespectful to each other. There is a structure. But like I said, for some like this online thing, this whole social media experiment, right, has failed. I think it's failed the black community because as we see, there are a lot of us are unable to communicate effectively. We're all trying to be right. Everybody wants to be right. Nobody wants to compromise and say, you know what, that was a great point, or it's not about winning. It doesn't have to be a conversation where somebody has to win. It's not a zero sum game. It doesn't have to be a zero sum game. Everybody can win. Everybody can get a piece of the pie. Everybody can be heard. But it shouldn't be at the expense of disrespecting somebody else, though. That's my thing. You shouldn't have to disrespect somebody else just for you to be heard. And that's what, like the message
Mhm.
that I want to tell a lot of the brothers. And, we are making great strides, Jose. There are a lot of brothers like DKT, right? I don't think you know who that is, but that's somebody that's on Femi's channel a lot. And they go back
Mhm.
and forth. But he's a great example of a well-spoken guy, right? That can hold his tongue. He doesn't have to scream over anybody. There's a lot of men now actually starting to go that way, just being a little bit more reserved, right? So like if you want to, get into all of the, nasty rhetoric, all of that, then, they're going to do that by themselves. You know what I mean? We're just going to back away and, have a conversation with somebody that's willing to actually, have a calm demeanor and not start berating men out here. That's one of the things that we do not like as men is to be berated. Just talk down to, and be rated. You know what I mean? We just simply want to have our points of view put out there, our perspective. And for brothers like myself, I will back it up with some information, some slides, some data, some charts and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. At first, a lot of guys were getting into the back and forth. They were being disrespectful. They were being really loud and obnoxious. But you know what we found? That's not a good look for a man to be yelling and screaming at a woman. It's not a good look. Even if you're right, there's a way to go about. It's not what you do a lot of times, Jose. It's how you do it. So if you can be respectful with it, that is the that's the perception that we want to put out there, that you as a man are dressed right, you're presenting yourself correctly, you're speaking with, intelligence, and for me, having something to actually back it up with. Like that's the image that we're trying to put out there. Not that image of we're gonna curse you out because we're upset, we're not getting our way. The conversation is making us look bad. No. Just simply just back away. If you're starting to feel as though you're losing an argument or that you're starting to get emotional, then what you need to do is take a step back. Take a step back. Don't get defensive. Just take a step back and say, listen, I enjoyed the conversation, you know, and, move on. You know what I mean? But to sit there and actually allow your emotions to get the best of you and you to get really loud and start to get kind of disrespectful, that's a cycle that leads to yelling and arguing and things of that nature. That's not what we want to see men doing out here. It's not. So that's what we've told, the brothers how to behave themselves in the Black Manosphere proper. And this was all started by Kevin Samuels. He was the one that started this image, this remaking of the Black man's image. We want to have men have a clean cut image. It started with the suits. It started with, the presentation. Then it went on to the behavior. And then it went on to the speech. So now what we're noticing is that, there are a lot of brothers now that won't engage in a panel where there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of loud women there, no, they would just try to listen to the argument, but they'll never participate. See what I mean? So that's what we want. That's what we're looking for. Men to actually just be more reserved and have more control over their emotions out here. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I also noticed is that certain males have an issue dealing with a strong woman who is self-confident in herself. It seems like it affects their psyche.
Yeah, it does. You know what I mean? Like, my thing is that, and I've talked about this before, is for some men, and we've noticed this, right, is that they get on a panel, right, and they feel as though they're putting their masculinity on the line. Like if they feel like if they lose this argument or if they look bad, that they're less of a man. No, brothers, that's not how you do this. You don't argue with your masculinity. Like, you're not putting your masculinity on the line, just because you lose an argument. It's not that deep. It's not that serious. If you as a man know what you're standing on, you got a wife, know that you're handling your business at home, know what you got going on is real, right? You're just getting on here having a conversation. You're not putting your masculinity out in front and leading with that and then feeling as though it's being attacked if you lose an argument. That's what another thing that we've noticed in men, because as soon as they get put into an intellectual conundrum, between a rock and a hard place, they start to get on edge. A lot of men start feeling uncomfortable, on edge, and they start to have this feeling of, well, is my masculinity being questioned here by me losing this argument? She's winning, like I can't let her win and make me look bad. Like they have this thing, right? So yeah, the psyche, starts to, weigh really heavy on them. So what I'm saying is that you don't lead like that. You're just on here having a conversation. Let the cards fall where they may. You may forget something to say. Oh, I forgot to say that. It happens all of the time. You know what I mean? Where something gets said, and then later on, you're replaying this stream, and you're saying, you know what? What I should have said was X, Y, and Z. Why didn't I say that? It happens. You know, everybody. This happens to a lot of people. So you're not putting your masculinity on the line if you lose an argument to a woman. Like, it's not that deep. Hey there.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Hey,
All
Don
right.
Armando, and I just want to acknowledge that Embrace Your Curls is in the chat. Good evening.
All right.
Long time
Good
no
evening.
see. You've been truly missed out here in these YouTube streets. So,
Yep.
Don Armando, I don't know if you've been listening to the discussion regarding who are the incels.
I mean, I just came in because I just actually finished my live. It was very interesting. It was just with me, Stray, and Pete. So shout out to Embrace Your Curls. Shout out to Randall Carlesian, and shout out to Irby. So I was just listening to a little bit what Double D was saying, and I actually agree because you could have a like a discussion about manhood and stuff. If you lose the argument, it's not that deep.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying, but what I noticed, a lot of men, they start to feel as though like they're losing their masculinity if they lose an argument, or they're starting to like look bad. Like they get this thing inside of the back of their mind that they starting to look bad, especially like if people start laughing at them and stuff, and they start snickering it on. Like, if you starting to get that emotional, I would just say back away, say, hey, look, I enjoyed the conversation, and just exit the panel respectfully. Instead of sitting there getting all in your feelings, right?
Right.
That's what I would suggest, because I've been on a lot of panels, and I've seen a lot of panels, like, and I've seen it happen a lot, right? So
Yeah.
like it's just something I wanted to mention there. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I chose to discuss this topic, because you have males that have used the term incel as an insult, okay, directed to certain men who have a healthy respect towards women, who do not see women as mere object to satisfy their lust, okay. But the fact of the matter is, these are individuals that for whatever reason, whatever is their mental malfunction, are unable to attract a member of the opposite sex. So they're going to act up, they're going to get emotional, they're going to call them everything, every name in the book other than a child of God, simply because they do not then allow them to gain access to the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've already kind of, what I'm saying, went, like I've talked about the incel piece. So Don, we definitely would like to hear your perspective on that. What you think about this group of guys, they call them incels, that have permeated into a lot of these spaces online, and trying to cosplay as real men out here. Like, I mean, what you think about all that?
I mean, if you really look at it, right? I'm doing
Well,
me and Don Jose. We have one incel stalker in common. That this guy has a history of going into spaces and causing them up, right? So if we living on live, we could have a stream or whatever. They find some fault of it, trying to make childish personal insults against us or whatnot. So one thing you have to you have to listen and sit back and watch. Most of these incels are just They're like parasites. You get what I'm trying to say? They go into the host, they go in, they try to learn what it is, and then when something doesn't meet their status quo or what they stand for, they'll actually attack you for something that you might actually think that is good. You might be trying to show how men is respect, but yet they'll try to twist it around to the point that everybody will be arguing and such. And then after that, they just go back and see of the mess they made, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna attack you some more." So basically, you have some of these incels that they're actually an infection to a lot of spaces. So all you just got to do is if you have like a certain say so in your space and stuff, you could kick them out and everything, and they will never be in your space anymore. But then certain people, they're just infectious in the bad way. So that's how I actually view incels.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, all of that is very characteristic of them. You know, they tend to be keyboard warriors. You know what I mean? Like they cosplay out here, and they have all these fake pictures and things to try to make people think that they have this great life, that they're married. Some of them pretend to be married. They pretend to have kids. They pretend to have these six-figure jobs. That they, pretend to be, masculine frame, right? But what happens is their world falls apart when somebody starts to question and be like, can you show and prove? Can you actually show me like a video, of you actually living this life, right? And not just pictures, because in the age of social media, it's so easy to doctor photos. It's so easy to doctor videos and put them on your channel and act like that's you at the beach or you at the club or whatever. And that ain't even, you know what I mean? Like it's just so easy to do that. But a lot of them are keyboard warriors, a lot of them are, saying jumping from, panel to panel, they're trying to collect information on people and pretend like they know more than what they really know. Like they act like, like they've been to all of these places. Like they have so much knowledge, that you don't have. Like I find that very interesting, very, very interesting. But yeah, and a lot of them too, they actually stay with the mama, you know, they actually not, what I mean,
Yeah, that part.
that part. Yeah, they're actually not living on their own. Like they're not functioning really as they claim that they are. They're living in a false reality. And the internet is a perfect space for an incel.
To promote
It's
that
a
false
perfect
reality.
space.
And
Yep.
like for example, I never thought that in a million years, right? And I'm just gonna put it out there. I got doxxed, right? So I never thought in a million years that I would be made fun of for just being a homeowner, right? They're about, oh, your property and this and that. I'm like, I don't care. At the end of the day, you're talking about a lot of superficial stuff that people don't care about. You get what I'm trying to say? And
Yeah. Yeah.
just for the fact that you see that certain people are homeowners or whatsoever, and you're thinking that you're gonna go and try to break them down with childish insults. You're not. Everybody's just laughing at you. That's it.
Yeah, that's all that it is. You know what I mean? People are people. You know what I mean? People, I mean, my thing is, like I totally, they think that by doxing somebody that gives them some kind of power. Like all of a
They
sudden
don't.
now, bro, no, you know what I mean? Like just like you said, people are actually, what I'm saying, looking at that person. Oh, that's what you had to do. You had to do that to that man. See, that's not cool anymore. Like all of that doxing stuff, like
It
that's
never
not
was
in
cool.
anymore.
It was
So
never
yeah.
cool. To tell you the truth.
Mhm.
A lot of these guys, they just mad, and they want to go around and say insults towards a person, and then they're like, oh, that person's laughing, but yet they want to try to dox you some more. I'm like, please, what y'all gonna do? Nothing. If you see me like walking down the street, y'all ain't gonna do nothing. Oh, and if they're so angry that they want to actually get physical with you, the first thing they threaten is like, oh, I'm gonna make sure you go to jail. Or what? For having an opinion? It's not communist Russia. The last time I checked, this is America.
That's right. freedom of speech out here. You know, everybody has, you know, a right to their thought processes, you know what I'm saying? Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom to, you know, assemble and associate. So,
Hmm.
yeah, last I checked, you know what I mean? People have a God given right here to do that. So, yeah, I totally agree. But a lot of them do tend to be incels, you know what I mean? A lot of those people that are into that, you know, they, you know what I'm saying, they are incels. So,
I mean,
mhm.
think about it, right? If a person's doing doxing and talking about the same people for the past 2 years, right? I think that's very incelish within its nature. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I totally agree with you. Because they're socially awkward. See, a normal social person, right, gets out of the house, they go places, they socialize, they have other things going on. They're not just sitting on the computer going from panel to panel to panel or trying to find information on somebody so that they can make a live stream and try to embarrass somebody. You know what I mean? So just like I said, a lot of them need to learn how to actually get out, have a social life. That way, they're not doing a lot of the things that they're doing online because it's real, you know, lame. You know, that kind of thing is real lame.
Yeah.
And therapy is sorely needed. You know what I mean? Look, this area of social media on YouTube, it's not a therapy place. It's not. A lot of
It's
those
not.
guys got deep psychological issues, bro. They got deep issues that only a trained therapist can, you know what I'm saying, can deal with. You feel me? So that's why I'm like, yeah, this is not a place for you to try to work your psychological issues out on somebody else, bro. This is social media. It's not supposed to be this social media. Like, bro, like it's crazy out here. It's crazy.
Hmm.
Speaking about crazy, I mean, this one individual. Okay, let me just give you some of the rhetoric that was being directed towards me. That I'm racist. I have an STD.
Hmm.
I don't practice dental hygiene. I'm broke. I'm old. I'm senile. No one loves me. My family is dead.
Hmm.
And I'm a disappointment to my mother that passed away 5 years ago.
No.
Hey,
Well,
Alex.
yep.
Hey,
Hey
Alex.
The
everyone.
same. Hey, Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing good right now. I'm, taking a break from doing live streams until the end of August.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wait a minute. I've seen you before. I remember when you actually went up and told off Mister. That was entertaining, Alex.
Yep.
Yes, it
Yep.
was.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that was,
Yo, you should have. Yo, it was actually entertaining because the way that he went up and told Alex off, and now well, the way that Alex went up and told Mister off was like it was epic. Mister had nothing to say after Alex told him off. I was like, yo, you doing what you got to do, bro.
and and at the end of the day, he went on ahead and did what he usually does, and make a live stream and everything. So at the end of the day, I'm like this. Um, the men who want to disrespect women, and want to punish anybody for stepping up and protecting women, aka other incels like like freaking Myron James and all his people and stuff like that want to go ahead and do it. It shows that it shows what DDS was saying. They are proving to the women that once again they are right when it comes to what is happening. And the thing
All
of
right.
and the thing And the thing of it is that at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I'm just tired of women getting disrespected for real. I'm just sick and tired of. I have to watch a clip that someone sent me of Myron disrespecting the women of the melon, calling them everything but the child of God. And you know what? I'm getting real sick of it. Myron sounds like a 12-year-old child. Mister sounds like a 3-year-old that didn't get his toy during Christmas or his birthday. And 912, man, he's so he's so freaking he's so that man is mentally ill. That's all I have to say.
Me personally, with Myron and everything like that, I don't agree with nothing that he says no more because I actually look at him and Andrew Tate as grifters. So therefore, yeah, women. I like women. We never seen you with the girlfriend, bro. Stop the cap.
Stop the cap.
I'm sorry, I had to say that.
No, that's right. Stop the cap. Yeah, that's true.
Excuse me. Good evening, Rizzo. Thank you very much for stopping by. Actually, Alexander, I have a name for Mr. I call him Senor Payaso, Mr. Clown, and Miss.
Oh, I forgot about that. My bad.
You know what I call Myron? I just call him Aladdin without a carpet.
Yo, cut back. That's a good one, bro. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Dawn 9112. Didi is a flip-flop who helped us strike down Femi's channel. We was all in the WhatsApp and he calls women whores, and I'm like, really?
What?
Wait a minute, who's saying that?
A guy who calls himself the Don 912.
Oh, that's Marquise. That's Marquise.
The Smurf.
Yeah, the leprechaun. That's Marquise the leprechaun. You know, that's what Mr. Lee calls him. But that's who that is. Yeah, I got him blocked. Okay. That's why I can't see him.
Well, because one of my mods took care of him.
No, I took care of him.
Yeah, of course he's gonna say that. So yeah, they mad. Alex, they mad, bro. And Jose, just like you said, like this stream was gonna trigger some people.
I knew it was gonna trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now they're here, launching their little attacks and stuff like that. See, that's what incels do. Like they go from panel to panel and they try to, they think they know everything. They're on here being, awkward. They got some of the loudest mouths, and they're actually failures as men. Like they're not really. These are not men. You know what I mean? Like they're staying with their parents. Have failed out here. Like Marquise, okay, he lied about being a combat veteran. He lied about serving in the military. That's about as low as you can get as a man to do. Like that is so low to do to say that you were a wounded combat veteran. He said he was shot in Iraq. When he got on Big J's panel.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go say something about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not a veteran, or never will, or try to ever act like I'm a veteran. So that's not only a disrespect to veterans, but this is an actual disrespect to people that I knew that served for their country. You know what I'm saying? And exactly. I've actually have the privilege of having my co-host on my martial arts segment, who was actually a combat veteran from the Marines. Then I had another combat veteran who was actually in the Army too as well. And I had another one, I guess he was in the armed forces as well. So so to me, not only I'm not a veteran or anything like that, but when somebody has to have stolen valor just to get like YouTube likes or anything like that, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna get called out. And then when you actually face off with real veterans, they're gonna go in and knock you out, and you will have no discourse because 9 times out of 10 some police officers are veterans too.
Mhm.
So come on.
Exactly. That's what happened to him. Even online when he got on Big J's panel, a few brothers came up that actually served and asked him, "Hey, where were you stationed at in Iraq?" How about he could not answer the question? So
Exactly, because he's lying.
because he's lying, he
I mean,
claimed,
I mean, like,
yeah,
there was a whole bunch of people that try to ask me, "Oh, because my ethnicity is Dominican, right?" They would say, "Oh, where you from? You doing this? You doing that?" I'm like, guess what? 9 times out of 10, I could give a person the detailed stuff, and that person will still try to say down line because they have a political status quo, and since I don't meet that, they want to go and try to tell lies. When the fact is, if a person who is honest, right, they ain't gonna go around and show pictures of their family or anything like that or whatsoever. And then you have certain people who dox it about, oh, you're a fake. You got nothing to prove. Because at the end of the day, the doxers, they want to go around and spend all they want to do is spin a false narrative about you. And then they're like, oh, we're gonna try to get you arrested just because their feelings got hurt. Like, give it up.
And I
yeah,
and I love it when and I love it when Mister talking about that he's gonna have me deported. Mister, I'm still waiting for ICE to come knocking at my door.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, like it's even to the point that I seen my name on Doxbin, and it was like, hey, we're gonna try to get you deported. Me, right? The person that they didn't like, that they were like, oh, he's one of us. Well, since he's dark skinned, we're gonna try to get him deported. Yeah, but nice try. I was born here.
and then Marquise lied about being married. Like that was
No, no,
found out to be a lie. He's not married. You
he
know,
wanted, but it was like when I first met him, right? He actually was saying that he was married to a Dominican woman. Okay,
Mhm.
I ain't gonna go around and doubt that because I know successful Haitian Dominican marriages. But the way that he put himself off, I actually thought that he was about real and stuff because people trolled him in the past or whatever. But now since he's going after Miss Elite, I'm like, yeah, you're a loser.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And birds of a feather flock together. So him and Nate and Mr. Rucker, all of them, and Bronze Bozo. That's what I call him, Bronze Bozo. They all hang out together. They're all the same. Like they all have the same character. So if somebody was to tell me, look, your best buddy over there is lying about being a military veteran, he's not married, and he's on here harassing women. I mean, he's harassed at least a dozen women over his YouTube career of 15 years, right? And it
I,
turns
I,
out,
I, I'll say that in the hundreds.
yeah. And he claims that he's from Florida, but actually, brother, we found out that he lives in Blackshear, Georgia. Brother, my thing, I mean, my thing is that that's what these guys do is they cosplay, they act like they're all that in a bag of chips, that like they got this great life, right? And then they gotta, what I'm saying, try to act like that they're over everybody else. Oh, I'm doing better than you. I'm doing so good. And it turns out that they are at the bottom of the bottom. He stays in the trailer with his mama in Blackshear, Georgia. That's where he stays. You know what I mean? So my thing is, that's typical of what incels do. And he has his little compadres over there, Nate, and a few other guys over there that are all the same. Like they're all the same. They all do the same thing. They lie and make up stories about being married or getting married, things of that nature. You
All
know,
right, all right. So let me get this straight. You said that homie lives in a trailer with his mother.
Yeah, he lives in a trailer with his mother in Blackshear, Georgia. We've got the like, brother, like that's what I'm saying. Once these guys get called out and questioned, see, he's been harassing and doxing people. And now that people have looked into him, and have found out that, he's not who he says he is. He doesn't live in Florida at all. He stays in Georgia, but he keeps trying to claim that he's from Florida, and he's not. He's not.
That's no
And it's been
bueno.
proven. It's
That's no
been
bueno.
proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. And he has a group of guys over there that, that he talks to, and they believe his lies because they are in the same similar situation, like they're failures as men. These are not really men, bro. Like they're failed out here. Like they don't have a wife. They don't have a career. They've never went to college. Man, like it's sad. And then they try to shame black women. Like, okay, so he's 500 pounds and Nate is 600.
Wait a minute. Homie's 500 pounds?
He's 500 pounds. And Nate is bigger than he is. Nate is like 600 pounds. And they're out here talking about these fat black women, trying to shame black women, bro. Like, really? And look at you.
Wow.
And look
Talking
at you.
about calling the kettle black.
Wow.
Right. So, that's what happens when people get, they get too big for their britches. That's what we call it down here in the South. Like, you know what I'm saying? Got the big
so what part of what part of the South you're from?
That he's from? Blackshear.
No, where you from?
I stay in Tallahassee, Florida.
All right.
I live in Tallahassee, Florida. So my thing is, just like I said, like for guys like that, they get exposed and then they get embarrassed. They go away for a little bit, a few weeks, a couple weeks, and then they're back at it again. But I'm not going to let anybody forget how much of a loser Marquise really is. How much of a loser that he really is. Every time he tries to harass Miss Elite like he did tonight, he tried to. I'm gonna respond back like I am now and let everybody know that he ain't ish. That's what I'm gonna do.
I mean, you don't even.
But it's a lot of guys like that, Don. It's a lot of guys just like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, it will actually defeat the point right now because think about it. It's even to the point that everybody knows that he ain't ish. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
So why go and beat a dead horse when everybody knows that this person is not a reputable
Well,
person?
you know what? I see what you're saying, but this is the thing: is that if he's going to continue to do what he's doing, then I'm going to continue to also do what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like that's my thing: is that there may be somebody that later on watches this stream and says,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's that. Oh, that's who that is." Okay, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. This internet is worldwide.
I get what you're trying to say.
Worldwide. Worldwide, brother. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, yep. So that's that.
But you know something I find amazing that we're like 2 hours into the stream and there's still 11 people viewing it as we speak. And I actually got 14 likes. I didn't think it would be that popular, but I guess it is.
Yeah.
When you said that you were gonna do this stream, I knew that it was gonna bring in people that you may not normally have, but it was also gonna bring in, some of the people that we're actually talking about. They know who they are, and they're in the clouds listening, getting angry, obviously, from the comment that the Don 912 made. That's Marquise 912. Same person, you know what I mean? But I already know who that is. But just like I said, Jose, I think this was a great stream, brother. I gotta get up in the morning because I got a job to get to, so I gotta get to the bed, brother. But you know what? I appreciate you doing the stream, Donna. It was good talking to you, brother. Alex.
Oh yeah, if
Alex.
anything, I sub to you right now. So
All right, brother.
Yeah.
You know what? I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night. All right.
Well, thank you for stopping by and thank you for your contribution.
Peace.
But I knew it from the get-go. The minute that the stream was going to go on, it's going to bring in, it's going to bring in this type of reaction. I knew it. I just knew it.
Yep.
I would say that.
Oh yeah, I just have to say this. I'm subbing to the real Aaron Collins also. So
I'm already subbed to the real Aaron Collins. He makes good content. I actually met Aaron when he used to come to the DJ Torches live stream.
all right.
Yeah, he really is a cool dude. And but yeah, with the topic that's at hand, I'm starting to realize that at the end of the day, the men that DDS and Don was talking about,
Yep.
they really aren't masculine. I mean, sure, the dude Byron has money, but he's crying like a perpetual little child, as usual. And and Mr. and 912, they just people that need to seek help. Real talk, because. And I saw Miss Elite's live stream tonight. That was wrong. That was wrong for what 912 did. That was legitimately wrong.
Yeah.
I guess this must have happened after I left. Because it was like getting close to 9:00 my time. So it's just I have to like get ready for my stream. So I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah.
But look, I knew when I had this topic, this is the reaction I expected. Okay. And I'm sure there's going to be other incels that they're going to get their panties in a bunch. But you know what? My attitude is I'm going to say what needed to be said. Whoever don't like it can kick rocks.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you. Congratulations, Embrace Your Cause. I'm really happy for you. And again, you've been truly been missed out here in these YouTube streets.
I mean, me personally, one thing that I gotta say, just because idiots want to go around and they want to do this, do that, don't ever shut down for them. Go around and keep the force. And if they want to go and continue harassing you, you go through the proper channels. As for me, I'm not going to proper channels, so But I'm just saying for the women, go through the proper channels because nobody ain't gonna go around and shut down your voice. Because I've been doing this out, and I know, and we all know who don't like me. But guess what? I don't care. I got 1,000 subs right now, which I got from the mud. So if I could do it, everybody else could do it too. Don't let these idiots go around and try to tell you or try to infect your personal life and everything like that. You're a YouTube content creator, and y'all should be protected. That's all I got to say.
Shoot, I have
Definitely.
600 something subs, and and I'm and it's like, you know, I do my content on the I do live streams on Saturdays, and I'm just taking a break and taking a well-needed vacation right now. But I'll be live streaming on the last Saturday of August. But yeah, the two people that we're talking about have been, you know, harassing me, you know, for a long time. And they it's like they want to play victim whenever somebody defends themselves. And like I do stories on a lot. I do lives on a lot of things like black femicide and stuff like that. And then Mr. Payasto, am I saying that correctly, Jose?
What?
Yeah, Mr. Payasto, he said that I was doing black male hate speech. What is black male hate speech about discussing black femicide? And it's like he wants to control people, and so does 912. He wants to control people as well.
I mean, look, when everything is said and done, Mister is a 3-time loser. He's been kicked out of TikTok. He's been kicked out of Rumble. He's been kicked out of YouTube multiple times. So that all needed to be said. And as far as his partner in crime, all I can say is get a life.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. But in any case, I'm going to start to wrap this up because I do have to get up in the morning as well. So before I wrap this up, Don Armando, do you have any last remarks?
Yeah. You incels, you people that like to go around and harass women and other content creators, excuse my French, but fuck you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And again, a huge shout out for you for reaching 1K subs.
Thank you.
Alexander, what are your final thoughts?
I would say I would say the same, but I'm going to do it differently. To all the incels out there who are harassing women and harassing content creators, y'all need to get a life. Get off the internet, and for real, stop making up the things that you are not. And you know that's why I rock with a certain person who was on that live stream with Miss Elite, because you know I ain't going to question how she found out that, you know, Mr. is not getting married. I'm not going to question that at all. And the thing of it is that these incels, they just need to get a life and stop pretending on the internet. And while they had get some mental help and quit harassing women and other content creators. And that's it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I say this has been a very productive stream, even though the incels tried to invade the space, but they were denied access thanks to my mods. Look, when everything is said and done, these individuals that are incels, they need to not get into the dating pool. What they need to do is they need to get therapy for whatever trauma, whatever disappointment, whatever anguish, whatever mental meltdown that they have experienced, for the fact that they're acting the way that they do. If you want to engage with the opposite sex in any way, you need to be respectful. If you're not going to be respectful, why are they going to engage themselves with you? And calling respectable men incels because we have a respectful women just illustrate that you are incel yourselves. So a huge shout out to everyone that appeared on the panel. A huge shout out to everyone that appeared in the chat. And of course, we're going to close saying the same saying that I always say. We must avoid the presence of the mentally and intellectually challenged, because if we fail to do so, we will be infected by the stupidity and mastered insanity. This has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron, saying good night, take care, and tomorrow's talk will be who's the block. So we're going to be talking about why people need to be blocked off the platform. Well, wait a minute, let me just. Good evening, Georgia.
I am shocked that you are still live, bro, after I just returned from my men's group, man, which started at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I just got home.
Salute, Jojo.
Hey, Don. Dude, I'm so surprised that you guys are still live after all this. Oh, I'm like, oh my God, Jose is still live? Whoa.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, you missed the incels trying to invade the platform.
Mister?
No, Marquise.
No.
Marquise.
Oh.
His partner in crime.
I see.
Yeah.
But
well, I guess we can carry.
But I knew when this stream started, I knew about the reactions going to get, and I can just imagine the issue I'm going to get from that I'm going to get from the incels. But so be it.
But
Yep.
I guess I'll just quickly interject in. I mean, much like I said in my video, which I already know some people already looked at it, in order to fit that criteria, you have to constantly belittle, denigrate, and objectify women, which is also going to contribute to your singlehood. You may desire that sexual/romantic relationship, but you were just too busy with getting off at the denigration and the objectification, which is contributing to your miserable position. That is an incel. And the same thing would even go for a femcel, which is the female version of that. So there you go.
Well, I will say this much. This stream gotten 15 likes, which is like, whoa. Would you care to speculate? Would you care to speculate how some of our ops will react?
I could care less about how they're going to react because look, Twitter man doesn't ever show himself, hardly ever does. And like I once said before, one thing I can agree with Anthony Ali on before he left is that the people who hardly ever show themselves are the loudest in the room. And that I think goes back to your point in regard to how like your loudest critics are the ones who have never met you or hardly ever know you like
Mm-hmm.
that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just Twitter man, but it goes for everyone else though, because there's a bunch of other people who do not like me or others as well. So I could care
Wait a
less
minute. Wait.
because
Yeah, I don't care what Dookie Man has to say either.
I could care less. Like I said before, that I could care less about that dude's predictable personality. Like I'm like, you know what? I knew you were gonna do that because you're so predictable.
They're so predictable that they're boring. Jeez.
Like I said, did you see my video that I uploaded today? My
Yes, I
short
did.
video.
Well, I didn't. I'm gonna
Well,
check it out in the back stream. Yeah.
well, well. Let's just say, I think that this month is probably dedicated to somebody. If you think about it.
Yo, you're right about that.
If
Yeah, you're gonna see the you're gonna see the YMCA song being blasted.
That song was being blasted.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
that's
now
all
you
I
know what
said.
I mean, Don. Is that but my short video is only 40 seconds of me in
Oh, wait a
Walmart
minute.
over a shirt.
Wait a minute. I saw that already. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm just like, well, isn't this month dedicated to somebody? And maybe he'll benefit from my video, you know? I'm just like, dude, be a man. Revert back to tradition. Deny yourself, deny your flesh. Become equally yoked with a woman or stay single and celibate. Okay?
Yeah.
Make a choice.
Or
No more homoerotic comments regarding men. All right?
yeah, or no more harassing straight couples
Well.
that don't really care about you. Be a
I
man.
mean, I'm never going to see the ending of the first Shrek movie the same ever again because of the YMCA song. I never,
What?
Well.
I'm glad that we can end this stream off with laughter because I'm just like, wait a second, this month is for somebody, right?
Yep.
Oh. But we still would like to uplift them all in prayer anyway, you know. Oh my God. I'm like, wait a second,
You know,
it's June.
If it wasn't for the fact that I have to work tomorrow, I would stay through it for at least another hour.
Jose, I just got back from my men's group and wow, having a good time already. Unexpectedly. This was so unexpected. For all of us to burst out into laughter here, you know?
You know, I think this has been one of my best streams ever.
Yep.
let alone is that I'm just talking about this is Pride Month for somebody, right?
oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all I'm just gonna say this is I pass. No thanks. No thanks. No.
Nah.
You guys see my videos. That actually is how I am in real time.
Gotcha.
So I'll pass. No thanks. Read Romans 1 verse 26 where it reads,
well,
for men gave up unnatural relations.
all that. With all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry.
What did you
Well,
say,
all
Jose?
that being said, I have to put this to bed because we can go on for hours, and I gotta work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
got
god.
Because
you.
unlike these
Oh man, I
incels,
gotta work tomorrow too.
I mean, unlike these
Yes.
incels, we have lives.
Yo, for
Yeah.
everybody, Wednesday, I have my martial arts chat and everything like that. So if anybody, if y'all got questions and such, y'all just come, y'all just come, ask the questions and everything like that. If you ask some raunchy questions, my admins will block you. That's all I gotta say. But on Wednesday we have our martial arts show. So if you want to, feel free to come through. You know what I mean? Irby came. I know in certain cases, Georgia have came. And Alex, I welcome you too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll be over there. I'll be over there. I just subscribe to you, and I'll be over there as soon as I get the notification.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you, Alex. So, and then yeah, me, Alex. So I'm kind of mainly a Christian content creator, though, but I try to keep it pretty multifaceted here on my platform too. Just a variety of stuff, though, but I'm pretty unapologetic about who I am in real time and even on the internet. So it's nice to meet you.
So am I.
It's nice to
So am
meet you
I.
too.
Likewise.
Go. So, gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure. I gotta go to bed.
At least you can go to bed with at least in a good mood, knowing that you had a good moment of laughter on here unexpectedly, though.
Well, with that being said,
Jose,
Yo,
you might want to
yo,
end it before
yo, yo,
we
yo,
Hey,
yo, Jose, yo, Jose.
yes,
You got to block this guy in the private chat. You know what I mean?
oh, Marky. Oh, 912 is back there.
Oh, Marquise is in there.
Block him.
okay, you know what? He just been banned.
Okay, now I see what you mean though about somebody invading your chat. Jose.
Jose, I, uh, why I usually do if I'm not doing a live, if I have one of those days, where we can talk about anything, you know, I I put up an open panel. We can talk about pretty much anything and everything, you know, but it has to be on that certain day, where you know yeah, and where I can have the time to do that. But yeah, I'm thinking about doing that again as well after I come off of my vacation, because I'm to tell you the truth, I've been going live way too much and everything. Sometimes I just need to take a break and get my mind right. But when I do come back on the last Saturday in August, I will be doing a live stream. I'm trying to reach out to someone right now as we speak for that, because I'm thinking about talking to Tim Tebow about a certain subject that he was talking about, and we all know that the incels don't like real talking stuff. They just want to harass people. So yeah, they're blocked
Okay.
on my you know off my panel too. Even though they don't come, if they come, they will be blocked. But yeah, yeah, that's what I'm thinking about doing. But yeah, anyway, these incels are getting tiresome. It's like it's like they want to be little children. They want things to go their way, but they need to realize that's not how the world works.
Pretty much.
But
True. Well,
but again, the incels, they're gonna do what they want to do.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I just want to say thank you very much. I'm calling it an evening, and I'll see you, and I hope to see you guys real soon. And everybody
Likewise.
else, take care and peace.